Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where sales leaders teach you what's working for them so you can build it yourself. Feeling ready to kick your sales into high gear? We're here to help. Check out our sales coaching and consulting services at predictablerevenue.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Predictable Revenue Podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about sequences and cadences. I think a lot of us know at this point that we're supposed to be using sequences or cadences, whichever you call them, but we're not sure exactly how we're supposed to do that. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. It's coming from sales leaders at your company or externally, content creators. A lot of the SaaS businesses that are in the sales space are always putting out this type of content, but it's not often that we actually get to learn how to create strong sequences from somebody who actually has the data to back up their claims. I'm your host, Sarah Hicks, and today on the Predictable Revenue Podcast, I'm going to be chatting with an expert about outbound sales sequences and cadences, best practices, and common mistakes. Why should we even bother with cadences versus just going kind of traditional manual tasks?
The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. So what are some of the bad habits? Because the bad habits, to address the bad habits, is why we have cadences. So it's kind of a cause and effect. Let me explain the bad habits. The bad habits are this. And if you're a marketer listening as well to this, you're going to go, yes, preach it, Darryl. Okay, so the bad habit is marketing's gone and spent a lot of money, and they've made you a lead, and it's hot, and they give it to you, and you go, thank you. And then 48% of the time, you never, ever call that lead. And if you do, often you'll take, on average, it's either 36 to 63 hours, depending on your study, you want to believe, to follow up on. Okay, so that's a bad habit. Why? Why? Because you should follow up on every lead, because that's a real lead. Money's been spent. The marketers need to show a return on that spend. B, if you call up within the hour or you reach out within the hour, your chances of actually connecting triple. But if you wait more than 4 hours, it drops like a rock, and beyond 8 hours, don't even bother. So those are the bad habits, number one. Bad habits number two is we tend to make 2 or 3 attempts to engage, and then we give up. But statistically, depending on your study, you need to do 9 to 12 touches before somebody finally goes, oh, did you want to talk to me? Okay, sure, I'll talk to you. Beyond that, they've just tuned you out. All right, so 2 to 3 versus 9 to 12. That's a 3 to 4x difference in effort. Next, when we make those 2 to 3 attempts, they'll span weeks, because we'll make an attempt manually, and then we will physically, we may or may not schedule it. And then when it comes up, we're like, yeah, I called them last week. They suck. I'm going to skip this one and call them next week. So again, it's so old. You finally do reach out to them. They don't know who you are. And it's dead in the water. Finally, last bad habit we're all guilty of is cherry picking. So we're working on lists, maybe HubSpot, maybe Salesforce, maybe a spreadsheet. And you got this list of hot leads you got to follow up on. And what you do is you kind of go, no. Oh, Microsoft, they've got lots of money. I'm going to call them. And so you're cherry picking the leads, which means everybody you just said no to. That's why you're only making 2 to 3 attempts, or 40% never called in the first place. Get those two with the deals. All right. Those are the bad habits. I've set the stage. There's more, but those are common. So what sequences or cadences do simply is they force you as a rep to follow up on a lead instantly. As soon as it's in the system, it should be routed to you. Now, maybe you get to it within an hour or 3 or 4 hours, but it's not days. The second thing it's going to do, it's going to force you to make those 9 to 12, give or take, attempts to engage instead of the 2 to 3.
So tell me, Darryl, how you'd walk through that process of understanding your target audience so that you can go ahead and build the best cadence possible.
All right. So I love that you're talking about before we do anything, because too many people just want to jump in and write the emails, right? And I see it over and over again. I see all the cycles being spent on, what's the emails? What's the script? What do we do? What do you think? Let's bounce this back and forth. Let's have a shared Google Doc before we go. Let's hire it out. And then there's a whole nother kettle of fish we could get into. Does sales own it? Does marketing own it, or somebody else? Anyway, you have to know who you're talking to. Who is my ideal customer profile? And then who is the persona within? So this is what marketers do every single day. And sales reps have only started to into this in the last couple of years, which is If my ideal customer profile is somebody maybe in high tech, I'll use VanillaSoft. I'll use for simplicity. VanillaSoft's ideal customer profile would be somebody who would be in what we call real world industry. So it would be insurance or finance or manufacturing or a services industry or maybe a fundraising vertical like higher education. SMBs typically, so maybe less than 25 sales reps or fundraisers. That would be that's my ideal customer profile. So if someone comes to me from technology, I'm not going to want to pursue that because that doesn't fit my sweet spot where my product is, as an example. But the next part is you have to understand, as an ICP, what do those people face? And they face some shared challenges. So, for example, if you're SMB, like mine is, they don't have the same resources of an enterprise company because they have different budgets, all that kind of stuff. Also, part of that could be language. From the VanillaSoft's case, we tend to focus on North America. So if someone came from Japan, I'm not going to want to engage with them, right? So right away, you need to know who you're talking to. The next part is the personas. In other words, think about the buying committee. That's the best way to put it. What's your buying committee when you're selling? Again, if it's VanillaSoft selling a sales engagement platform, I want probably a head of revenue operations, a head of marketing, a head of sales. I might want an actual rank and file, sales rep. And I probably want like an executive C-level officer, maybe the CEO or the CEO or the CFO. That's kind of 5 people right there. That's probably my buying committee. And then I can, land and expand from there.
Who cares about your product? Who cares about how exactly you can help them get there? Who cares about the features? What do they care about? What do they care about doing? That's it. Those are the things that you want to say in that messaging, and keep it short and sweet.
Oh my gosh, short and sweet. We can have a whole episode on short and sweet. So let's talk a bit about the short and sweet, if that's okay with you. Let's talk about this. Gets into the cadence design, but let's talk about email. We'll use email because email is the prominent channel. Short and sweet. Okay, let's start with in sales as a whole, let's table sales engagement or cadences or sequences. Sales as a whole, what's the purpose of a meeting? Okay, it's a trick question, Sarah, to see if you know the answer. I'm going to throw you on the bus. And if you don't know the answer, you can edit it out afterwards.
Okay.
What's the purpose of any meeting?
To have a conversation.
You're right. You're spot on. Purpose of any meeting is to have another meeting.
Right.
When it comes to email templates, you can follow BAP, you can follow ADA, you can follow TTTT. There's lots of different formulas. They're designed to do a couple things. They're designed to keep it short. And they're designed to entice them enough to simply get them to respond, because the purpose of this touch is to have another conversation. Mm-hmm. It fits on my phone without scrolling. If I do scroll, I can scroll once and that's it. Short, sweet, tight. All the formulas follow that exact same, BAP, 3 lines, ADA, 4 lines. That's what you need to be doing. Tighten, stop with the War and Peace. If you do that, I will look at it and I will likely respond yay or nay, because I do want to be polite. I do want to recognize you. I'm not an idiot. I've got a sales team working for me. I want them to get responses. So I'm going to show you that same courtesy. Just make it easy for me to give you a yes or no answer.
Those different channels into our approach. How do you design the kind of optimal sequence with all of the different channels in mind?
Okay, so that's fantastic. So answer number 1, there is no perfect answer. I want you to know that right away, okay? So again, what have marketers been doing for years that sales reps are only now figuring out, which is they've been doing A/B testing. So every single sales rep out there, you're now a marketer, start A/B testing. And it's really simple. You're simply saying, I've got cadence A, I've got cadence B. They're the same cadence, targeting the same ICP and the same persona, but I'm going to do half my calls or half my touches on cadence A, half my touches on cadence B. Or you could do, for this week, I'm doing cadence A, for next week, I'm doing cadence B. You can figure it out. But at a certain time frame, you're going to say, which one performed better? And then you can even get granular as at which touches, emails, phones, SMSs are performing better. So you need to test and iterate. Don't forget that. The other part is, it says on my phone, 3 missed messages. Who was it? Oh, I recognize that number. So yeah, Sarah reached out to me again. It's a touch point. It's a branding. It's another touch. So sometimes your touches are intentionally not designed necessarily to actually convert. They're designed to influence so that ultimately they convert. But in the end of the day, if I had 12 touches, I'd probably send 6 emails, 3 phone calls, and 3 social touches. Now, if you want to, you can mix in there an SMS, but usually that's more, middle of the funnel. You've already got an established rapport. That's where I would start. But that's what you want to do. A/B test it, making sure you're following your messaging, following your target, personas. You know what they want. You're not doing cliche templates. You're keeping it short, tight, and sweet and consistent. You're making it relevant to the consumer, and then you're going to do an A/B test. I didn't give you an answer, but I gave you a method. Sir made a brilliant comment with the content piece because you've got great content. I will guess that, again, 90% of you have no idea of the content of your company's website. Okay, you want to go look at the content. There's great content there. Trust me, just spend an hour, get to know it. And here's what the kicker is. You don't need to include content with those touches. You can actually be a little more provocative. You can say, we've got a great paper that we just wrote with Cynthia Barnes. And she talks about A, B, and C and how to make your LinkedIn rock. If you want a copy, just let me know. I'll send it to you. You see the difference? I didn't just give it to them. If they want it, they got to reply to me. Same outcome. I'm still sharing that content, but they got to engage, which is the whole point of that. Starts a conversation.
So tell me what your thoughts are around crafting a great subject line.
Oh, okay. Great subject line. Okay, so I'm sorry. I have lots of opinions. You're making me laugh already. And it's in my head, kids. I'm sorry. So the great subject line, statistically, you want 5 words or less. 1, 2, 3 words work best. The whole idea, though, is you want to make it stand out and be unique. I hate to say this, but again, the marketers are doing it right when they had clickbait. You don't want to be clickbaity per se, but you want to say, Sarah, check out Cynthia. All right. I don't know what the hell that means, but I'm going to check out Cynthia. Of course, that's the message where Fani says, hey, by the way, if you want this content from Cynthia, it's great stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's an example where it's provocative enough that make me to do it. The reason I was laughing was because I was working with one of my reps the other day about remember we talked about you want to build trust. I want to see your posting activity. That's what I'm going to do. So I was working with my reps to physically make sure they're doing posting activity so they overcome the same objection that we just talked about. And I was trying to teach them, you've got 209-ish characters before it says, read more on your LinkedIn post. So I was trying to teach them how you want to leave them like a cliffhanger, like it's the end of a season. It's a season finale. Did he live? Did he die? He was shot. What happened? I don't know. I got to click read more. So it's the same thing. Your email subject line has to be a little bit that way, provocative, just like any kind of post you do. If you want to get engagement, because the algorithm works on dwell time, and part of that is making sure that you hook them the same way. So it's the same skill set. Once you master it, you can use it in both cases.
Nice. What about a call to action? What are your tips there? So
call to actions are, here's the thing, right? Even in the TTTT, the last one I used an example of teach me, that's Josh's, right? Which is really that call to action. If you want to learn more, if you want me to teach you, then this is the next step, all right? So marketers refer that as a call to action, which is you've hooked them. Now what do I do? Do I buy? Where's my credit card? That's the whole thing, right? Operators are standing by, order now. And then they say the number 42 times over and over again, so you know what to do. It's the same premise. You want to have a call to action. So if you've hooked them and baited them, you want to tell them what the next step is. That call to action could be very subtle. It could be just like, stay tuned. I'm going to be reaching out to you again. I just want to introduce myself. All right. So the call to action is just simply stay tuned. But now they know to expect you because you've told them. So they're not going to delete you because you're like, oh, it's Darryl again. Or it could be like I said, do you want a copy of Cynthia's presentation? All right. Or it could be like, we've got a great webinar coming up. So I'm introducing myself. I triggered you, the whole 9 yards. Here's a great webinar coming up. You might want to check it out. It features kick-ass rock star A, B, and C people that you know and respect from your industry. It's always a call to action. You're always trying to move it on. Here's what you don't want to do. The call to action isn't hit this Calendly link to book 10 minutes in my calendar.
If people want to learn more from you, if they want to get in touch with you, where can they do that?
Crazy thought here, LinkedIn or Google Darryl Praill. You can go to my website, lots of ways, but LinkedIn is the surefire hit.